Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Hurdle the Line. As ever, I am your host, Fletch, and we are here to talk about a very, very exciting slate of Week 5 NFL games, one that features less teams than we've had so far over the last few weeks. But more importantly, we have all of our co-hosts with us today. First off, we have in screen order, we have Ballers Meg. How are you, Ballers Meg?
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
Lovely, lovely stuff. And we also have Karl. How are you, Karl?
All good, mate. All good. Let's rock and roll.
Um,
First game in London, so should be a good week.
And we have the man who thinks he's just too good to be on the college football podcast, but apparently this one's the one that he wants to be on, which we are fully respect and understand. We have Sam. How are you, Sam?
I'm good. Well, I didn't have anything to talk about last week. Texas Longhorns went on, so why would I need to be on the pod?
Exactly. You wouldn't have watched anything else.
I wouldn't have watched anything else anyway.
I do believe you didn't actually watch much college football this weekend at all, anyway.
I
But
I really didn't have time to watch any.
not helping the cause here when swipes have been taken at you. But either way, before we get started into the episode, this podcast is brought to you by the Asleep at Work Network. With plenty of other different podcasts going on as well throughout the week. We have our college football UK podcast. We have the Fantasy Den, which features my gorgeous face, well, my face, and Sam's gorgeous face, and I do mean gorgeous face in that one, as well another person you should remember in Gary. Both of us are also on the College Football UK podcast. And we also have the Patriots Touchback as well, which features Nick's lovely face, and Carl's on there too. Um, we have so much going on throughout the week. We are just so much. And if you would like to follow and get in with everything that's going on across the network, then you can get us on our social medias. If you go to the bottom of the video on YouTube, or if you go into the description of the episode on your audio platform of choice, you will find a load of links. Well, on YouTube, you will now find buttons. You can follow the AAW, you can follow Herd of the Line, and you can follow all these wonderful co-hosts on your favorite social media platform. Okay, so with all of that out the way, I think we best start getting into the news that's come out since Monday. I do believe, but I want to bring it up here anyway. Want to have a quick chat about that. Malik Neighbors has suffered an ACL tear. He is out for the season. Huge loss for the Giants. Where do you go from here if you're the Giants?
I'm
I'm
scatterable.
Cam Scatterbo to run at everyone. He'll just
Yeah,
bulldoze people because
I
you
was
you
heartbroken.
you only get like two touchdowns a game, but then your defense has got it. Their defense is really really good, and I
Yeah,
think I mean you saw from that was it who did they play last? And they played really well. It was against the Chargers, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, did they beat the Chargers?
they
Yeah.
did. They gave the
So
Chargers their first L this season.
yeah. So I mean, you know, they and that all that game was just leaning on that defense. That defense was phenomenal. So I think they just do that. It's just they found their recipe, and I think it suits Dable because he's doesn't have to do much, just allows his defense to do it, and then just have wrecking ball Cam Scatterbo just run at people, take people's heads off.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking to watch. I think we can all agree that any injury to any player is never nice to see, but when it's the Giants and they've had such a rough couple of seasons, my heart was breaking for them. I thought that's so sad. And I know he's not the only player on the team, but he is an incredible talent for them. And he had found his rhythm on the team and he was playing really well the last couple of weeks. In fact, the Giants have been not necessarily getting the wins, but they've been doing well in terms of it's enjoyable to watch the play this year, whereas it's not always been that recently. Um, and I think seeing that ACL tear, and I when I was watching it, I knew straight away. I thought he's gone for the season. As the minute I saw him go down, I thought, oh dear. Um,
Yeah, that
but
expression on his face, you can just tell straight
he
away
knew,
it was done.
he knew. And I think, like you said, Cam Scatterbo is just incredible. And watching Jackson Dart even getting his starting game and scoring that touchdown in his first drive, doing so many great things. It was such a high start to the game, and then watching that happen. Obviously, they went and got the dub, but it's still sad. It's still really sad, and there is going to be huge, huge miss for the team this season.
yeah. In other injury news, Tyreek Hill will be out for the season after suffering multiple torn, just like basically whole knee was torn.
He
Dislocated
needs
knee.
Dislocated knee.
reconstruction on his knee, basically. He needs
Yeah.
reconstruction on his entire knee.
Another,
It's quite possible he could. He'll never be the same player.
yeah.
I mean, how old's he now? 28.
He's 32.
So
I think he's 31, near for coming 30. He'll be 32 in 2026.
this could be his career end. This could be the end of his career, or at least the end of his elite career done.
Yeah.
We've already semi on the decline.
His agent has come out since and said that, look, obviously he won't be back for the rest of the season, but they are planning on having him back for next season. But like you say, as next season approaches, you don't know what his body's going to be telling him after that. You don't know what his knee's going to be saying to him.
He's got all them kids to look after as well, hasn't he? So
Oh, that's a bit dark.
he has got a lot of kids, though.
Yes, I'm aware.
He has had the surgery though, and it went well according to his agent. And again, we never want to see a player injured, no matter who it is, no matter what their background. And it was a nasty, nasty thing to see. I don't know about you guys, but my social media feeds were just full of that video.
All I saw was Tyreek Hill going down with a bad injury. How bad was it? And I saw the highlights, and the cameras didn't really pan it into the highlights because they knew it must have been that bad. So I waited for a certain YouTuber to bring out his usual shit posting videos that he always does, and it showed the full glimpse of the actual knee and the leg twisting. I'm like, oh, that should not go like that. That should not go like that.
It reminded me, I know it wasn't the same action, but it reminded me of the Nick Chubb injury, just that how horrendously awful it was. And look how long it took him to get back into football.
And he's still not the same player that he was before the injury.
He's that. He never came back the same player and ended up getting traded because of it, essentially. Well, getting moved on, obviously now finding a home in the Texans. But I would be shocked if Hill comes back. But the one thing I wanted to ask, and this might have been because again I only saw sort of the highlights for this, and obviously one of the big things that went around on Twitter as well was him basically clapping and looking very happy when he was going off on the car. Now, is that just him as a reaction to everything? Because obviously a lot of people are saying, well, he's glad to be injured and all of this, and he's glad to now he doesn't have to play for the Dolphins.
So Mike McDaniel's actually released a statement about this after it had happened, because obviously there was that controversy where you saw, I mean, I was watching it and he was very smiley and very happy. Now, first of all, that could be down to a lot of gas and air that might have been given to him during the treatment on the pitch. Number one, we don't know what he was given, right?
Maybe.
Second of all, what he was saying, and what Mike McDaniel said was that he was the happiest player that he'd ever, the player in the best spirits of someone who just received an injury that horrific. But what he was trying to say was geeing the team on and saying, "Look, I'm out, but you've got this. You're doing well. You can win the game." And that he just wanted the team to win, and let them see a more positive side. That, look, I know it looks bad, but I'm okay. Everything's fine. But it was a very strange reaction, and it didn't quite sit right at all when you saw like the kind of juxtaposition of how bad that injury was to him then just being like.
I think as well it's that whole idea of he's in the first few weeks of this season he's looked extremely frustrated. There was that one, I think it was even week 1, where he was literally like jumping up and down and like looked visibly frustrated. I think you've seen it in a fair few games. It doesn't help the cause that then when he's injured and he's going off the field, he looks more ecstatic than he's ever looked. And that's the worrying part. And I know it'll be the media will be grabbing onto it and saying, look, he's glad to be away from the Dolphins. He's glad to be away from Tua, because I did see a lot of that. But like I say, that was more of a, because they were at that point, they're in a winning position. They haven't been great all season. And like I said, it could just be a case of he's genuinely just trying to make sure that the other players just get on with the game and win the game rather than that. But Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
The medical staff had a massive job, but it seems the spin doctor has had the most work to do since the Monday uh, for that. The Cleveland Browns, by the way, as well. We'll get onto this one properly in just a little bit, but the Cleveland Browns have announced that they will be that Dylan Gabriel, sorry, will be the starter against the Vikings on Sunday. That game just so happens to be in London, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Look, I think I watched more of the Browns at the weekend than anybody else, seeing as they played the Detroit Lions. Probably the right decision. Um, Unlike Joe Flacco, I don't think Dylan Gabriel's kids are being paraded about in Lions jerseys or Vikings jerseys or anything like that. So probably a wise decision here to get Joe Flacco out of there.
Another weird one, because again, obviously the big news was Dylan Gabriel being announced as the starting quarterback. But all the news that I've seen is the interview of Shedeur Sanders giving a silent interview about the situation. And it's like, we've got, yes, okay, I understand Shedeur Sanders is this big guy and he's like, his dad's who his dad is and all of that. But it seems to be detracting from the fact that we have this really good quarterback in Dylan Gabriel who's come out of this at the same time. And the only thing that people seem to be focusing on is Shedeur Sanders. I find it so bizarre as a situation. And obviously, it doesn't help Shadeur's case in terms of his personal view because he's come out doing this silent interview and don't really understand the purpose of it. It's stupid. And it just doesn't add to this narrative of him being a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
Someone get duct tape so we can shut the fuck up for once, even if he was miming the words. At the end of the day, right? You're the third string quarterback. You weren't taken in the first round. You were taken in the fifth round. There was obviously a reason why. That's not due to your talent. That's not due to your lack of arm strength when you're throwing the football. No, you were very good at that. You're very good as a runner as well. No, the problem was when you fell down to the fifth round was because your attitude and you thought you had this level of entitlement thinking that you was going to get taken first overall or somewhere in the first round. And you didn't, and it bruised your bloody ego. Now, as a result of that, Dylan Gabriel beat you out in practice, in training camp. That's why he was the QB2. They put Joe Flacco in as the QB1 because obviously they put someone who has got so much experience, someone who could lead the line for a little bit. When it's time to move on to the new younger generation of the quarterback to see what they got, then there will be a time to do it. It wasn't going to be Shedeur Sanders. It was always going to be Dylan Gabriel. Okay, I find you're throwing him into the fire against the Vikings. Let's be real here, because Brian Flores is going to cause all sorts of problems for Dylan Gabriel, right? But at the end of the day, there was also a report, I think it was like a few weeks ago now, that apparently Shedeur Sanders had a phone call whilst in the draft room with the Baltimore Ravens, and he turned them down. Guess what, sunshine? If you'd have actually said yes to that phone call, you'd be starting against Houston this week. Prick.
Tell us how you really feel, Karl.
Didn't he also turn down the Eagles as well?
Yes.
Wasn't there something about him turning down the Eagles? Or the Eagles like kind of made sort of contact and then basically went, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." I mean, it's this thing is he's at a position now where I think he's almost completely self-sabotaging his own career because who's going to want to touch him if he ever leaves the Browns? Who's ever going to take him on as a starter with the attitude that he has?
The Toronto Argonauts might have a say in that one.
Dysfunctional franchises do dysfunctional things. You'll end up as a Dolphin.
The Memphis Showboats.
It's very, very much like a 5 year ago Raider move.
Yeah,
that's a John Gruden move if I've ever seen one.
Like you could imagine it, but I think now it's like you look at any NFL team now, who is realistically going to take a punt on him? And I don't think there is anyone in the NFL, as it stands, with the amount of negative media around him, that'll touch him at all. Yeah. And that's like if you're Shedeur Sanders' agent, you just want to be turning around like Karl said and just tell him to shut the hell up because he's not doing himself any favors.
Be a corporate guy. All you have to do is say, "How do you feel about Dylan Gabriel taking on the QB1 position and that, and he'll be like, "Yeah, good luck to him." At the end of the day, I'm
Wish him the
still
best.
wish him all the best. At the end of the day, I'm still training hard in practice, and when my time comes, my time comes. That's all you had to say.
Yeah,
Do
because at the end,
not try and argue with the critic, because you will get absolutely put on national television. You'll get lambasted everywhere.
because at the end of the day, if Dylan Gabriel doesn't work out and they don't really fancy going back to Flacco, he would
It,
have been the next guy
yeah,
up.
it's self-awareness at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's a bizarre decision, but I do. I mean, it's a shame we can't get Ollie on the pod and ask his opinion on this. Obviously, he'll have had his own opinions on his own socials, but I there are parts of me that think this is a really bad move by the Browns because of the fact that they're traveling abroad, that they're up against a Vikings team which has looked pretty good. I know that they've had a bit of a shake recently, they've had a few injuries, but at the same time, on the flip side, it's like we're abroad. Just go out and try and do your best, and just we'll see what happens. There's no sort of.
I understand why I understand why you think that, but I also think as well, Joe Flacco is only going to lead the Browns so much somewhere. And after his disastrous game against Detroit, I think they've decided to take him round the back of the woodshed.
I want us to we'll get into the play of it and what that means
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
weekend as we get into the games. One more piece of news that I've got, and that is linebacker Shaquille Leonard, the maniac, formerly of the Colts and Philadelphia Eagles, has officially retired. That was the 2018 Defensive Rookie of the Year, a three-time first-team All-Pro and a second-team All-Pro as well. Three-time Pro Bowler, and just want to wish on behalf of everyone at the network a very, very happy retirement, Mr. Maniac. So that's it. Has anyone got anything else just before we move on to this weekend?
I've just got that the 49ers don't have
Receiver.
Brock
Anyone.
Purdy, Brock Purdy, Joanne Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, obviously
Brandon
Kills.
Ayuk.
It's so bad that their ambulance is on IR as well.
If I remember rightly, I saw as their starting wide receiver this week is Kendrick Bourne
Who?
and DeMarco Robinson.
Yep.
So that's going to be
Demarcus Robinson. You mean?
DeMarcus Robinson, not DeMarco.
Yeah,
Same guy.
solid wide receiver free.
So that's their two guys, and then obviously Jake Tung, is it?
Tungis.
So yeah, it's not going to be pretty for Mac, especially against that Rams offense, Rams D line. But
One more injury report on the Ravens, as if they couldn't get any badder on the defensive side of all their injuries. We know about Lamar Jackson, obviously. Safety Kyle Hamilton with a groin also didn't practice Thursday after being limited yesterday.
that's not good.
If Houston don't win this game against Baltimore, then well,
They've also lost obviously Roquan Smith, which we know about, but
they've lost 2/3 of their starting defense.
Mm.
2/3. You can't compete with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, okay, one more piece of news that kind of cut into three pieces. The players of the month have been announced in the National Football League. As far as rookies go, your offensive rookie of the month was wide receiver Emeka Egbuka of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And on the defense, throw it over there to the Falcons, you've got safety Xavier Watts is your defensive rookie of the month.
Both of those are very well deserved. I think Emeka Egbuka has been making waves since the minute he stepped onto the field. And Xavier Watts for us, certainly. I mean, our Falcons defense earlier this week was sitting second in the ratings overall, which I've waxed lyrical about plenty of times up till now, but just to see our team having a defense that's actually stopping people is so damn nice to see, because I am so used to every conversation about the Falcons being yeah, you've got so many offensive weapons, but your defense is shit. And just watching not just Xavier Watts, but James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, and the classics, the D. Alfords and all that, doing the things. We're happy to see.
And Carl Pitts Senior managed to actually make a catch.
Who would have thunk
He
at the
got a
start of the
touchdown.
season? And he's making moves. Actually, I'm not mad at Kyle Pitts at the minute.
He's been playing
Yet.
well. To be fair.
He has been playing very well.
Did you ever stashed him in fantasy?
I already did.
Well, I've got to because I got Trey McBride. Anyway,
I took a punt.
The only one that I would Book has been brilliant, but the only thing I would say is that I would still make a case for Puka Nacua. I think he's been the best wide receiver in the league.
Well,
it's only the rookies.
I'm going to say,
sorry,
Puka Nacua cannot win Rookie of the Month.
He could.
Well, yeah, he could. I'd have words with whoever's doing the voting for it and awarding these awards.
Jerry Jones.
Right,
Oh,
Sam,
no,
Sam,
yeah.
Sam.
I want you
to take that thought. I want you to take that thought of Puka Nacua, right? Just hold on to it for about 5 seconds.
Okay.
Then I'll let Meg speak on something, and then you let rip, my friend. You can let rip, right? The NFC Players of the Month on offense you've had, and I really want to see how well you rip at this one because I know how much you love this one. Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons leads the NFL in yards from scrimmage and has a reception and a rushing touchdown to boot. On defense, it's the LA Rams' linebacker Byron Young. And on special teams, I don't think anyone can argue with this one, at least. That is Dallas Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey. So, Meg, I will let you speak on Bijan at the Atlanta Falcons. And then, Sam, I will let you choose whether you want to fight the Puka Nacua fight or just shout out Byron Young.
Well, my guy. If anybody's seen last week's Falcons game, watching that dart from Penix to Bijan, that was, I think it was 69 yards, was incredible. Literally, like watching it and having been obviously shut out by the Panthers the week before, which I can talk about now that we've got a win convincingly under our belt. Watching that connection and watching Bijan just do the Bijan things that he brings to the team, and I think no matter where he was, he would be such a weapon. And I feel like I love the guy. Like I watch him and I'm like, you think he can't get better, and then he does something, and you're like, holy shit, where is this coming from? This is like superhuman in places. And even then, he's given an interview this week, and he's like, it's still not enough. There's still more to come. There's still more things I want to do. The way that I was watching a feature on him spinning out of tackles, and he's also like leading and not going down with the first hit, basically. And being able to kind of, yeah, that's the one.
I suppose not really classed as yak yards, are they? If it's rushing, is it? It's like yards after.
Yeah. But just watching how he's moving and how he does the magic that Bijan brings to the team is like insane to watch, because realistically, I didn't come into this season thinking we had that high hopes in terms of like maybe a wild card. And I know that we're 2-2 and I get that, but equally looking at the Bucks injuries right now, looking at so much can change on a week to week that let's see what happens. But I'm so excited for Bijan, and he deserves it 100%. I don't think anyone can argue with the magic that he brings, except obviously Sam for Puka Nacua. But I'm happy. I'm very, very happy. And to see our rookie getting acknowledged as well as obviously Bijan, it was a good day for the Falcons today.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked years and years about Bijan. I wanted him. I've always liked him coming out of college. So, yeah, finally good to see him actually doing well.
I wonder why you liked him coming out of college.
Well,
What college did he go to again? Uh,
He went to the Texas Longhorns, and he was fantastic there, and he was fantastic afterwards. It's just it feels like they finally released the handbrake on him, and he's now just doing what he can,
Yeah.
what everyone's always talked about that he can do. Um, the only reason, and it's not just because he's a Ram, that I would say Puka Nakua needs to be, I would say should be in the conversation. I mean, his game against Indianapolis was absolutely phenomenal. 170 yards. I think he had, was it? Let me just check the stats. 13 catches in that game. I think probably the only thing that probably is maybe the main reason why he's behind Bijan at the moment is his output in terms of touchdowns. He only has one this year, which is tied 46th in the NFL. Um, so in terms of the output, I mean, but his importance within the game in terms of the running and just the actual performances that he puts in, you always talk about things like when Saquon carries the team on his back, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Puka Nakua carries this team on his back, and along with him and Stafford are just so good. It reminds me of watching him when it was the Stafford and Cup, and there's always so far there's been the comparisons. I think there's been a lot of jokes about that Stafford's clone from when he was back with Calvin Johnson and all of this nonsense, which he leaned into this week. But yeah, I think if the only reason he's not above Bijan at the moment is the output. I think Bijan's output's been far greater.
yeah.
In terms of defensive, Byron Young's been phenomenal, and it's weird because he was brilliant for us when he was sort of a rookie, and he was so slowly making his way through. And then obviously we had the likes of Verse and Fisk come through, and they kind of took the limelight away from him a bit. But I think that's kind of helped him because he's now just become an addition, like one of the standout pieces in that sort of front line. And he's been phenomenal this year, and I think he's sort of benefited from the focus on Jared Verse. And I think a lot of teams focus on him and then forget about Young as they always do. But yeah, I think I will make a mention though. Jared Verse's pancaking of the Indianapolis Colts center was one of the funniest things I've seen. He literally just bulldozed them on the floor and then did this star jump trying to catch Daniel Jones, which was quite funny. But yeah, it's good to see sort of Byron Young getting recognised for the work that he does on that defensive line. So yeah, but I believe it or not, I have no issues with it being Bijan as being the guy because he is. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I say as well, just shout out former MLS star, well, not quite a star, Brandon Aubrey as well, by the way, who has been fantastic. As far as the AFC goes, offensive player of the month was James Cook of the Bills. Defense is linebacker Devin Lloyd of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And special teams is kicker Spencer Schrader of the Indianapolis Colts. Another fantastic choice. Any objections to any of those?
I've just picked Schrader up in a few leagues because to be a backup to Jake Bates, though, obviously. Just putting it out there.
I love James Cook. I think none of them are completely out of the wild choices for those awards, to be honest.
Yeah.
James Cook is one of the first names in any fantasy league that I draft, and he is always up there as one of my picks that I target every single time.
Yeah.
But what about how does Karl feel? Because obviously he'll watch more AFC than probably all of us put together. But how you're on mute?
The AFC, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, who got special teams again?
Schrader
Spencer
from the
Schrader.
Colts.
What, the kicker for the Colts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely flip and disagree with that. Completely. They lost. They lost the Colts lost that game. It should have gone to Marcus Jones. Had it not have been for the Panthers punter, he would have had a kickoff return and a punt return touchdown. Sorry, but that's not that doesn't sit well with me in my eyes.
Okay. Um, give you this though. Schrader led the NFL in field goals made, 13, and total points scored in September, 51, becoming the only player to record more than 40 points in the season's first month. He missed only one of his 26 kicks, 14 field goal attempts, 12 point after attempts. This is Schrader's first Career Player of the Month award, becoming the fourth Indianapolis kicker ever to earn the honor.
Whoop-de-doo, has he had a kickoff return and a punt return for a touchdown? No, he hasn't. Sorry.
To be fair, it'd be pretty impressive if he did.
Yeah,
It'd be pretty impressive if he did.
yeah, that'd be a well. Do you know what? One day I would love to see something like that. Like game 18 of week 18 of the season, your season's over. Fuck it, put your kicker out there as gunner on returns for a game. Just put someone random out there and see how they do. Um, okay, that's it for news. I don't want to dwell too much on the news. I want us to get into our topics. Now, first topic is one that we covered last year at this point in the season. No one, when the schedule comes out, likes to have their name on this list. In the first round of bye weeks of the season, we have the Atlanta Falcons, the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as you approach the end of week 4, you start to look at some of them and say, maybe we don't want, just because of the implications of now having to go from week 6 all the way to week 18 without a bye. It's a long time, but some of these teams will be slightly more grateful than others to go into this week with a bye. So we can do one of two things. I want us to either rank which team is going to be at least most happy. They don't have to be happy with it, but most happy with a bye week right now to least happy. But I'm going to start with just it. Which team do you feel would be the most? It is the most happy right now with a bye week. I'm going to start off with you, Meg, because it comes with the question of one of these teams is your team. Where do you feel, where do the Falcons feel right now about being on a bye? And if you aren't the ones that are happiest about a bye week right now, who do you think would be the happiest with a bye week? Karl, then Sam after that.
So, coming from a Falcons point of view, it's almost a little bit frustrating. I think when we're picking the momentum up that we have in the last game. It was on nobody's bingo card that the Falcons were going to beat the Commanders. Now, obviously, we know that injuries played a part in that. I'm not going to deny that. I can't deny that. However, we played well, and actually, arguably, the Commanders' defense was the biggest issue there. But going back to what I was saying about momentum, I think that we've got we're just starting to get things figured out. And we not only have a bye week, but we're not playing again until Monday Night Football. So, and we're coming back to the Bills. So, in terms of who our opponent after the bye is, it's quite good for us to rest up. It's worked out well for us that our bye week is now because Darnell Mooney is out with a hamstring and he is going to be back for that Bills game potentially. Certainly, he might. If he's not, then he's only missing that Bills game. He's not going to miss the next game, they reckon. So in terms of maybe most happy, that's a good thing for us. However, I think the team that's going to benefit the most from this is the Steelers coming off the back of the Ireland game and the fact that they've been travelling, the fact that jet lag plays a part in that, the fact that we all know what it's like to travel, especially for long periods of time. It takes it out of you, it's exhausting. So coming back from Ireland, getting a bit more rest might be really beneficial for them actually, especially when you've got a quarterback who's, basically in a retirement home through the week. So I would say that for me, the Steelers are probably going to benefit most at this point, potentially be the happiest just to get that extra rest in. But I'm not mad about it for the Falcons, and I didn't think I'd be saying that, but just with the Darnell Mooney, you guys know I love Darnell Mooney. For me, it's kind of worked out for us a little bit. Is where I'm at with that.
Yeah. Karl, what you thinking?
So I'm looking at a team that needs a little bit of a reset. after their last 2 weeks. That's the Green Bay Packers. Coming off a rather embarrassing loss, shall we say, to the Browns, losing 13-10. And then an even more embarrassing tie against the Cowboys. They need this. I think the Biss buyers set them in pretty comfortably here. They need the reset. Um, you know, and they know that that loss against the Browns and that tie as well. Let me just say something quickly, okay? Ties do not do any good. If doesn't matter if you have a winning team, a winning record, or a losing record. A tie doesn't help anyone. A tie either stops you from making the postseason. A tie stops you from getting a very high pick in the draft. It doesn't work. So Green Bay, they needed this, and I think they'll get the reset that we need. Let me just bear this in mind. Let's just check on the Packers schedule quickly. Who have they got coming up after the bye? Let's have a look. So week 6. They got the closest thing to a softball opponent in the Cincinnati Bengals. So there's their first game. Then they got the Cardinals. Then they play the Steelers Sunday Night Football. Then they got the Pandas. Then they face the Eagles Monday Night Football, and then they face the Giants. They've got 4 wins on the docket there. The two I'm a little bit concerned about is obviously Steelers and is Steelers and Eagles, right? In their next kicks. This will help them get set up really, really well. Okay, they are on the road to Cincinnati, but that doesn't make a blind a bit of difference. So, yeah, I think the bye week has ran in perfectly for Green Bay.
Lovely, lovely. I will get onto that in a second, but I agree. Sam, who's happiest to go in at the bye?
I probably agree with Karl about the Packers. I think they're probably going to benefit the most. They had that little bit of a shake in the last 2 weeks. It gives them a chance to reset and get ready for sort of the Bengals game. I think the team that's going to frustrate the most. So mentions for me it's the Bears. They just come off 2 wins against the Cowboys and the Raiders, and their next game is up against the Commanders. So you could probably say that it'd be good to be able to, work on a few things during the bye, going into that game against the Commanders. But to me, you've lost your first 2 games, and then you've gone and won 2 games against Cowboys and Raiders. You want to keep that momentum going. You want to be able to build that up. And I think sometimes the bye weeks can stunt that and can affect it. And especially when, you look at their next fixtures, again, sort of similar. You've got the Commanders, the Saints, the Ravens, and the Bengals and the Giants. There's 3 wins there at least, with the potential of, depending on how fit the likes of the Commanders and the Ravens are, there's potentially another win there. So would you prefer to have that straight after that game? Probably, in terms of those 2 games. But yeah, to me, I think they'll probably be the least bit happy, because I think they've got, especially being in what I would say is one of the toughest divisions in the NFL, to basically have to run from week 6 to 18 against knowing you've got to play at least 5 games out of those 6, or maybe 4 out of those 6, is going to be tough. And I think you've got the Packers twice towards the very end. So yeah, I think for them, the Bears probably the least happy with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna obviously weigh in. I agree with Karl. They were noted as number 1 most happy to go, probably take the bye right now. In terms of play, obviously, I absolutely agree that with Megan on the Steelers point, you're doing a lot of the traveling. You want that bye week, but if I'm going to look at just purely play, the Packers need it. Like I say, they've go 2-0 and then to go 1-1. Just don't let that become a habit. Like you say, regroup, reset. Let's get some of these things sorted out and figured out, and have a moment. Number 2, again, to be fair, there's an extent of still. Understanding the point, but also multiple other teams have managed to be able to turn around the short week with the travel. So, Falcons are my number 2 for teams that are probably been more happy going into the bye week. I think there are a couple of things that you want to get out of including injuries and getting players back. You also want to just, no matter what has come out, like you said, well, let's try this again in English. You look at the win over the Commanders, a good win. You needed the win, but also frustrating. It was closer than you would have probably liked to with those injuries. You come out of the week before being shut out. Raheem Morris, I think, needs a break real quick, real fast, and to take a look at some things that are still going, that are still not perfect
Yep.
and need to improve. The Yeah, it's incredible. It's got to be incredibly frustrating, and I do, like I say, Raheem Morris probably grateful for the just a reprieve, especially given the next opponent. Like you said, like Sam said, the number four have the most frustrated with the bye week right now have to be the Bears. You've just got momentum on your side. You've got the 2 wins. And who've they got after the
Commanders is
Commanders?
the
Yeah,
next game. Commanders, Saints, and then the Ravens. The
yeah.
next 3 games.
Come on. So you've got 3 more buys after that as well, really. Um, with how bad the Ravens have been, we know. Well, the Commanders put up a good
Commanders.
fight against the Falcons at the weekend, though. So then they're not gonna lie down and let you walk over them. So
Only in the fourth quarter when we were injured.
The one thing I'll push back on with Meg for the Falcons, it was good they needed to get the win over the Commanders they did. And the bye week they could say, yeah, okay, we're 2-2, we're in a much better position. Your next game is on the road to the Bills.
Yep.
Now, I'm not trying to be brash or be over the top about this, but what happens if the Patriots cause the upset over the Bills? You know then that the Bills are going to go into that Monday night game. They're going to want to play fucking Clay Falcon shooting.
Yep.
Just
No,
say,
and
just say it. It's
that's what I
hypothetical.
said. I would rather have my team full and healthy and have Darnell Mooney getting that good rest to come back because he is a weapon for us. Um, and that's what I said about coming in for the Bills. It is a good thing for us to have that bye in terms of health, in terms of prep, in terms of ironing out the kinks, like what Fletch has just said. When you said Raheem Morris needs a breakthrough, I thought you were going to say a brick to the face because I was going to say I agree. Because that smiling gesture is just not
Oh,
working for me right now.
he's one of the nicest guys in the NFL,
And
man.
I love that for him. I do. I love that for him. But as a head coach, I don't
Yeah,
love it for
it
me.
doesn't make good head coach, really,
I
does it?
don't love it for my team when we win or lose. He's standing grinning like a fucking Cheshire cat and pretending like everything's totally hunky dory. You've just been shut out by the Panthers, you fucking idiot. Like, sort your life out, mate.
I,
Um,
I had to experience it for a few years with when our defense wasn't doing very well under Raheem Morris, so I totally get it.
it's frustrating. It's one of those things, but and I like the guy. I do like him, and I do want him to do well. But I don't like the attitude that he brings when he doesn't bring the whole we need to do better and we will do better in a serious way because he's smiling through the whole thing and you think you've literally just lost 30 points to 0 and you're stood there grinning like a Cheshire cat. Sort your life out. Sort your life out. Because if you don't take this seriously, nobody's taking us seriously. And that's what it comes down to.
when Raheem Morris walks in all positive, when you get that, it just feels like you ever like the old quote. Do you ever wake up in the morning, hear the birds singing, and just think, shut the fuck up, right? Just shut up, right?
Yes.
It gives me those kind of vibes, and I get that. That's me.
Are you saying that Raheem Morris is the guy that sings in a morning, like in Friends, that Joey loves? Are you saying that is Raheem Morris, the very happy bloke in Friends?
All right. Slightly TMI, well, it's not really TMI, but like when I was in my teenage years, I used to go camping every year, with the church that I grew up going to. And 6 in the morning, every morning, bear in mind we're camping, so we're in tents. The vicar from the church would always get out of his tent and just and kind of embrace the world and scream, Hallelujah! I said, shut the f- just God's not. No, don't bother me with that. It's that was my
God's not even awake yet. Calm down.
yeah. That was first step on the road to becoming an atheist. That one, like just um.
All
Anyway,
his.
that's so yeah. Okay, so I think as a consensus, Packers probably happiest to go into the bye week. As
Yeah.
a consensus, Bears happy. Bears most frustrated to go away from the bye week. Okay, so let's not focus on teams that aren't playing this weekend. Let's get onto the teams that are playing this weekend, and we'll start with the Ballers Meg game of the week. What is your game of the week here?
I mean, it's slim pickings, I'll be honest. And I was going between two games, as we discussed before we hit that record button tonight. And it was between the Eagles game and the Tampa Bay um, Seahawks game. Gone for the Tampa Bay versus Seattle game because I think it's going to be more interesting. Um, and also, Seahawks are doing a lot of things across there. And they did this last season for me where they kind of sneaked up, and I thought, oh, that's quite an interesting um, little team that's going on there. And if they can get it together, a real threat. Tampa Bay are going into this week hurt. And that is something that we have to acknowledge. And that Seahawks team is no easy team to come up against. They have got targets coming out the wazoo, let's be honest. Like, you know, there is a lot of options for who's taking that ball over the touchline. There is a lot of people there who have got the talent. Um, Tampa Bay are looking at even if he's playing a hurt Baker Mayfield, who's maybe not at his full potential. Bucky Irvin is also not been in full training this week. Um, and I think there's someone else. I'm off the top of my head, I can't remember who it is. But there
Mike
is
Evans out.
that's the one. Mike Evans is out. So you're looking at a Tampa Bay that's not full potential. You're looking at a Seahawks team that is, formidable to say the least. In terms of historically, they've faced each other 15 times. 9 times the Buccaneers have won. Is that right? Is that the right way around?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
9 times the Buccaneers have won, 6 times to the Seahawks winning. I'm
Sorry, no,
interested.
Seattle have won it 9. Seattle
Was
have
it?
the 9 wins.
Yeah, so Seattle won it 9 times and the Buccaneers won it 6 times. I think Seattle make that 10. I think they do. I don't think the Buccaneers have got it in them to beat Seattle this week, and I think it is going to be a bit of a. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a well fought out game, but it's one of those that could go either way. But I give Seattle the edge just because of the injuries. We don't know that really the full extent of Baker's injury. He's still down as questionable. I think he will play, but whether he plays the full game, whether he, you know meets his potential that we would expect him to be at full health, then that's a different matter for me. So game of the week this week is Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm giving it to the Seahawks.
Okay. Any thoughts on this game, Karl?
A lot of good points, Megs. There's a few things that you've missed out. First of which, they're playing at Lumen Field. Now, take out Arrowhead. Lumen Field is probably one of the top 3 loudest stadiums in the country. There's a reason why it's nicknamed the 12th man for a reason. It's loud. It is deafening. It's going to be so hard for the quarterbacks to try. They've got to play what they call a silent count. We've seen it in the NCAA many times, especially Texas when it gets loud. Texas A&M, they get loud as well. Alabama, they all get loud. So it's going to be so difficult. More to the point as well, the defense of the Seahawks is very young, but very talented. And their running game is no joke either. Kenneth Walker is playing really well, and they've got Zach Charbonnet in behind him. That he's just as dangerous. And also as well, what we want to see this year from Seattle was Jackson Smith and Jigba. Can he become the wide receiver 1 for Seattle. We showed a little bit glimpses of it at the back end of last season. Let's see how he gets into this season. And he has absolutely dominated every single game he has been in. I think Tampa Bay could be in a bit of trouble here if they haven't got. I know Mike Evans they don't have anymore, but they did addition away from subtraction. They got Chris Godwin back last week as well, So Egbuka's been raised up to wide receiver one now. So, but for me, it's all down to this offensive line of Tampa Bay, and they are battered to hell. Now I don't know if Tristan Wirfs is going to be back this week or not. I don't know what the injury report has said.
Still questionable.
He's still questionable, so
limited practice on Wednesday.
Limited practice. He probably needs to be in a full participation tomorrow at least if he's going to play, maybe. So that's a bit hit and miss for me. I think this Seattle. I'll say this right now: the only team I can see right now that even gets a sniff close to the Rams is Seattle. The 49ers are just injured to hell and back. I've already said that their ambulance is on IR as well. And then you got the Cardinals, which, as I said to you last week, they're the red-headed stepchild. They're just there. So
they're the little brother that just, when he does well, you just pat him on the head. Oh, well done.
well done. Well done. You went to talk about weed on the floor. Well done.
Another week.
Normal service resumes.
For the second week in a row, the AAW network would like to apologise to the red-headed stepchildren community. The views represented by Karl are not representative of anyone else at the network. If we get sued again, Karl.
We need to just make a series of clips of things that Karl says that we have to apologise for.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
It would be probably about an hour long, though. That's any problem.
Literally.
Yeah.
What does that say? What did that say?
You can watch it later. I'm not putting it back on screen.
I think that's the video where if we want to get the whole thing cancelled, we just post that clip and just say, everyone do your worst.
Yeah, I think I really don't want the Seahawks to win because obviously being a team that we're going to have to play at some point, I'd rather them be losing a few games. They've already beaten two of the teams in the NFC already, so in the NFC West, so I could really do with them losing. But the only thing I could maybe see is obviously this week in terms of the practice or the injury report. Obviously, Josh Jones is do not practice. DeMarcus Lawrence didn't practice. Julian Love didn't practice, which is obviously a big one, and Devin Witherspoon didn't practice. So they've got a few pieces on the defensive side which are not going to be there. But yeah, I think you look at the list of who the Bucs are going to be missing. It's just a lot bigger and a lot more impactful on their team. And unfortunately, I think the Seattle offense is really, really good at the moment. And especially you take into the fact that, you've still got Cooper Kupp there and he's barely getting any receptions. And, we know he can be a stalwart for an easy catcher, someone who you can rely on to make short plays, long plays, whatever. But, it's just one of those things where they are just good. And I think, like Karl said, I think for me, they're the only team that I think are going to challenge us this year in the NFC West.
I think with Cooper Kupp as well, he's one of the players that I've recommended people just be wary of in terms of fantasy because he's there is so many targets, and it's not because he's necessarily not playing well. It's just that there are so many other options out there that can run it and put those yards up. So I've said this week, just be wary of taking Kupp, especially in daily fantasy, because it's one of those players that might not be as high achieving as you would expect him to be because of that.
I think as well, the only way that I think I can see maybe Kupp being a bit more effective is if you start seeing teams double market or double coverage on and Jigba, which you would expect them to start looking at.
Yeah.
Obviously, them free up Kupp. So
yeah,
it's possible, but he's someone that I have not because he's now no longer around, but because I think he's coming towards the end of his career, and I've started trading him away. Funnily enough, got him in a trade for Jake Ferguson, so I was happy with it. It included other pieces, but my main takeaway was I wanted Jake Ferguson.
Yeah. These are some really interesting games. We've got to move on now, and obviously we'll cover this one more time when we go into the pick'ems. Next up, we'll go into London.
London, baby. That's my second Friends reference.
I'm waiting it. Right, let's try again. We'll go into London.
Good.
So apparently people have watched Snatch. Clearly not. You would
For a long time.
Several years ago, mate.
Last time I watched Snatch was when I was about 15.
Right. I'm gonna have to cut this bit.
Because now you just look a bit silly.
When I say we'll go into London, I need you to respond 2 times in a row. London. Just ask me the question, London. Right? Okay, so one more time. Ready? We're going to London.
London.
Yes, London. You know, fish, chips, cup o' tea, bad food, worse weather, Mary fucking Poppins. London. Thank you. To watch the Cleveland Browns and the Minnesota Vikings matchup that has how do we word this one? Not jumped off the board. If this was the Vikings of last year, maybe that's an exciting team to watch. It's the Vikings of this year. It is Carson Wentz versus, as we mentioned in the opening of this episode in the news section, Dillion Gabriel, the rookie. However, what I think for me is the main attraction of the attraction to this game. Weirdly enough, you've got Justin Jefferson, arguably the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. But you've also got that Cleveland Browns defense. And I mean big if, Carson Wentz, that very, very average Minnesota Vikings O-line, can counteract that disgusting Cleveland Browns defense. That, as I set this game up, I want to give you a couple of stats. These are per PFF, but you can check almost any statistic in the league. This matches up. The Cleveland Browns are the number 1 ranked defense in the National Football League. And I tell you what, number 2 is not particularly close, especially when you think of how close the rest of them are. They are number 1 in run defense. They are number 5 in tackling. They are number 1 in pass rush and number 7 in coverage. They are top 10 in just about every meaningful statistic and top 1 in 2 of them, top 5 in another. The Vikings offense is number 13 in pass blocking, number 16 in receiving, number 14 in run blocking. The rest of the statistics, they are bottom half of the league. 34-10 on Sunday made the Lions look a lot better than they were, and the Browns were a lot better than that scoreline suggests. This might be an ugly game. What are we expecting to see out of this one, Sam?
I think this is the sort of game that I don't think it suits a London game. I think it suits a game for unless you are going to this game and you are just a general fan of the NFL as a whole, because I think this is going to be 2 brilliant defenses going up. I can't see it being high scoring, but I think there'll be a lot of really good defensive plays involved. And I think if you're a casual watcher of the NFL, I think this would be a game to massively avoid. But if you're someone, I think like all of us probably are, if you love watching the NFL, you're probably going to enjoy watching just 2 very good defense. I mean, you know, the Vikings aren't on the same level as the Browns, but they're still a solid defense. I know they've lost a few pieces, but they're still a relatively solid defense. And obviously the Browns, Myles Garrett and Co are just going to be absolutely destroying. I mean, they could end up breaking Carson Wentz in half if they managed to get hold of him. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be one of those games where I think it'll be. I am going to enjoy watching it on the telly, because it's going to be one of those games which, as someone who really likes watching defensive linemen, for me it's going to be a fantastic game to watch. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good game for the regulars. I think for the casuals, it's not going to be a great game.
Yeah, I agree. Fully agree with that. I think I'm initially at the start of the season, if you'd asked me, what do you think of this game coming up, I would have been like, because the Vikings of last year and the Browns of last year, the Vikings would have run through them. Hands down, run through them. They would have been annihilated on the field, an embarrassment. I've got the Browns winning this one, just so that we know. And I'm putting it down to that dirty defense. I think it is one of the things that I've been most surprised about this season so far, is the way that the Browns can handle the teams that they're coming up against, not necessarily because they've got any great offensive weapons that they're coming out and putting up the big points, but because they are stopping anyone else from doing that against them. And Myles Garrett, now correct me if I'm wrong, the last that I checked, Myles Garrett was down as questionable for this week. That concerns me a little bit. I might be wrong on that. It might have changed, but I did notice there was something about Myles Garrett on my sleeper app when I was going through my things.
He was it was estimated as a limited participant in Thursday's practice report.
Yeah.
So with a ankle injury,
which does concern me. Because that's relatively, I've not seen it up until this point. I might have just missed it, and that might be completely on me. But limited on Thursday is going to really depend on what's happening tomorrow for Myles Garrett, if I'm honest. Is what could sway things. I don't rate the Vikings this year. They've got some real decent weapons, but it reminds me of watching the Falcons last year. It reminds me of seeing Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and those types of players that are coming up that have the skill, that have got the quality, have got the talent, but they're not backed by the rest of the team that needs to be meeting that quality. And, watching the Vikings against us, very, very interesting. Update just come in that Terry McLaurin is out, by the way, for this weekend.
So the other one, Noah Brown, as well. He's out as well.
And
so they're basically
guard.
Yeah, so basically just Debo again. At least they've got Jaden Daniels.
Debo's also questionable.
Yeah, so it'll be funny just watching. It's just going to be Jaden Daniels running the ball.
And even then, that's if he's back at full. I know he's playing, but back at full.
He's wearing a brace. He's wearing a brace on his knee. Yeah.
So very interesting.
It's possible he's not going to be doing any much running either. So
no, but yeah, no. I think watching the Vikings right now is like watching the Falcons last season. I think watching the Browns right now is going to be the Vikings they struggle to get through us to put points on the board. Realistically, I would be concerned if anything massively changes on that front in this game.
I think the one thing that probably is, and we talked about this off before we started came on here around Quinshon Judkins. That's it, not Junkins. Judkins. He could have a field day, because I was having a quick look. I mean, obviously, I've said about the Vikings defense being solid. They're actually 24th for yards per game this year on the run, against the run. So it's quite easily that he could have featured heavily, and especially with a quarterback who is playing his very first game. He's going to need to lean on Judkins a lot. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a lot of running from him. I could see this being a very, very low scoring game. I'm talking like single digits on both sides sort of game. The only thing that would say is, obviously, if Myles Garrett is not available, maybe a little higher. We may be in the teens.
Yeah, I think I didn't get tickets for any of the London games because they just did not look pleasing on the eye at all. Now look at that, maybe the Rams Jags
I was
looks a
going to
little bit
say,
looks a little bit more spicier now the way they are, but no. This has got the makings of a 13-10, 16-13 type of game.
Yeah.
It really, really does. I am concerned of that makeshift O line that the Vikings have. Kevin O'Connell, he is a very, very good coach. He knows how to get the best out of quarterbacks. You can take Carson Wentz out the shit, but you can't take the shit out of Carson Wentz. Sorry, you can't. Um, the guy's cooked, and I know the Steelers defense had 6 sacks and was it a turnover on him or however many it was last week. But this Browns defense is scarily, scarily good. If they had a half decent, if they had like an average offense, they'll be up there in playoff contention. And I think that's why they also switched to Dylan Gabriel because they know Flacco's not going to lead them there.
Yeah.
Will Dylan Gabriel lead them there? We don't know. We got no idea yet. But this is, I said this off screen before we went live, and that is we're literally throwing Dylan Gabriel straight into the fire here. And
Yeah.
either he's going to come out like a winner, or he's going to come out, or he's going to come out burnt. We're going to see what happens because that Vikings defense is not to be sniffed at either. It's still very, very good. Um, it's going to be a rough watch, but as I said, I'll do my decision on my pick'ems in the pick'em show because I'm still having an iron over it.
Yeah.
On one part, I can see the Vikings just about getting through due to their weapons on the field. Obviously, with all Jordan Addison back as well, that helps him as the wide receiver too. He can now have the deep threat. We know Carson Wentz can still sling the rock, so Addison is there. But on the flip side, is Wentz going to have time to throw the ball when you've got literally Myles Garrett in your face, pressuring you on like 60% of your dropbacks?
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
think
Similar though.
I think the happiest person in once if Miles Garrett gets announced as not playing, Carson Wentz will be the happiest guy in London.
And the
Yeah.
saddest guy in London will be Ollie.
Yeah. Having said that though, I mean, I don't know if you mentioned it. I just did have to nip off real quick. Bit chaos around there at the moment. Um, the makeshift Browns line, and here this is the problem, right? This is what I saw on Sunday. Obviously, watched all of quite intensely. Watched all of the Viking Steelers, but also obviously then watched quite intensely a lot of the Browns game, because again they were playing the Lions. So what I saw a lot of was that Browns O line one is quite patched up anyway. It looks messy. Aiden Hutchinson was getting in the back, so was Tyleik Williams, so was Mohammed, so was the entire defensive line was able to get into Joe Flacco's face. Some of the things that Joe Flacco did, and some of the throws that he made with pressure right in his face were fantastic. But either way, the pocket was closed on him so quickly that every time even if he did get the ball out, he was on the ground half a second later because it was that tight in the pocket for him. What I think Dylan Gabriel gives you is that little bit more time that if the pocket is going to collapse, we saw it at Oregon last year, he has the ability, more than a 95-year-old Joe Flacco, to at least extend that play and maybe evade some of that pressure, maybe even just because of his age.
Mm-hmm.
What he doesn't necessarily have, and this is something we need to learn and he'll need to learn and kind of get used to, is doing it and getting the throws off with under the pressure of NFL pressure. That's something we're gonna have to wait and see. But I do think that if Browns were gonna be worried about having Joe Flacco getting under pressure and throwing picks, then you may as well let Dylan Gabriel do the same, but at least get reps under his belt because only Dylan Gabriel will get better. Joe Flacco won't.
Mm-hmm.
So at least, if anything, you can't get the Browns' offense to be much worse, but you can make it at least slightly better.
The other thing as well is that, and I think this is again it's the worry and the not worry, because Cedric Tillman's now out on IR, isn't he? But it looks like Isaiah Bond's going to step up, which, given the interesting way he started his NFL career, he now is essentially the wide receiver 2, arguably, in the Browns offense. Like, odd, but he seemed to have again, you'd probably be able to comment on it more than me, Fletch, in terms of how he played in the previous game, but based upon sort of the stats, he seemed to do all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I don't expect to see much out of the Browns wide receivers, to be honest. But as long as Dillion Gabriel can get settled early, make a few short catches, use your tight ends, use your Fannin, use your Njoku, and just build yourself into the game. It's going to be a friendly crowd, which I think also helps a rookie. In terms of that, it's not like walking into, like I say, Lumen Field or Arrowhead or anything like that. So it's going to be a friendlier environment that he's going to be in, which should help. And like I say, if he leans on Judkins, he should get a good start. And yeah, he's got a lot more flexibility in terms of being able to get out of the pocket and potentially make a few plays out of the pocket as well, because he's even if he wasn't a rushing quarterback, he'd still be faster than Flacco. So yeah.
Having said all of this, I think this is a really good place to leave it. Now I'm going to tell you what I want, what I really, really want. I just want Karl's double bomber. How about that one? How does that one work?
Not really.
That doesn't work. No, I've got something in the work. I've been doing something behind the scenes. Something I got a piece of software, so I've been trying to do. What?
A double bomber jingle?
Oh no.
This is
oh man,
it's a lot more in your face than a jingle.
I want a double bomber. I want a double bomber jingle.
Listen,
we want a double bomber jingle.
I feel like I both really want and really don't want double bomber in my face.
You know you want it in your face, Fletch.
Yeah,
you won't even stop.
I do want double bomber in my face.
Fletcher wants any excuse to be able to just say the phrase double bomber
as many times as possible.
I've started slipping it into general conversation as well and everything. Like,
you're like, well, there's a double bomber. They're like,
Mrs. Fletcher, like, well, what should we have for tea tonight? And I'll be like, I'm just gonna go through a double bomber of a decision here. just to say the word, you're absolutely right. And again, life's frustrating, and if sometimes when you get frustrated, you can just say double bomber. It just puts a smile on your face.
We're not arguing. There's no argument here. I agree.
Do we actually get to hear Karl's double bomber though?
Yeah, Karl, double bomber.
Yeah, do you hear my double bomber?
What's the in your face part? I'm interested.
No, it's just be the intro of it. That's basically it. Okay. So I've actually done a little bit of a swift change. I thought I had a 7-fold available. I haven't. I've done an 8-fold on the shorter one, but this one has got a lot more. This one I think has got a bit more of a better chance to. So, pin your ears back. Here are your 8 players to get a touchdown at any time for a $5. George Pickens, Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker, Mario DeMarcado. Yes, he is the new running back for the Arizona Cardinals. And Jahmyr Gibbs. That £5 gives you a nice welcoming 578 back. The 9-fold.
That Jahmyr Gibbs, you could probably stick him down for 3 touchdowns and you'd still be safe.
Exactly that. The 9-fold. This is where you get ballsy, and I have been ballsy on this one. And I have thrown in the London game as a pick in this one, so this might go horribly wrong.
It's like the 12:30 kickoff all over again.
Quinton Judkins,
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Jamonte Williams,
Yep.
Cortland Sutton. I know it's a bit risky. Bit risky.
I like it.
Ashton Genty, Darren Waller, Armand Russell Brown. Reluctantly, James Cook, Travis Etienne, and Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
That £5 on gives you back a whopping 9,755.
Just going to get ruined when Judkins doesn't get a touchdown.
At 2:30 in the afternoon in London.
I wonder, out of interest, if you didn't put the Judkins one on, how much do you think that would be valued at?
I haven't got at the Judkins one. You're still probably getting 6-7 grand back.
Might consider it.
I'll take the risk. You know me.
It's only because I'm very much like you. I don't like doing the 12:30 kickoff in normal football, so it's the same principle because it just ruins the bet. So
yeah, and remember, people, only bet what you can afford and gamble responsibly.
And
18 plus.
18 plus. We don't want any
18 plus as well.
encouragement of children to be betting, do we, Fletch?
No, we do not. Absolutely not. We won't stand for that on this network. So, thank you for that, Karl, by the way. Thank you for your double bomber. Again, I get to say it one more time. So, last thing I want us to cover before we move on to the final bit is just a really quick conversation on when we move on from that. I want to go on to what I saw on BetMGM earlier, and that is, we're 4 games into the season. We know who is good now. We know who's not good now. Things can still change, but we know where a lot of the troubles are. They started to expose themselves. Currently, the favourite head coach to be fired is Brian Callahan of the Titans. They are 0-4. They are in quite the spot of bother.
Can they find Nick Cayley, the offensive coordinator, at the same time as well, please?
Second in the lead up for head coaches to be fired is Zach Taylor of the Bengals.
Diet McVay.
Next up, we have Mike McDaniel of the Miami Dolphins. Then it's Brian Daboll of the New York Football Giants. It is then Aaron Glenn of the New York Football Jets. And then finally, Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns. Now, these are just the betting favourites. My question to you is, if you were to put a bet on one of these to be the head coach that's fired first this season, who would your bet go to? I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Meg, and throw to you first.
I don't think that the Browns and the Giants are at that high of a risk right this second. I just don't. There's too much potential in their play for me. I think Mike McDaniel might not get fired necessarily, but I don't think he will still be at the Dolphins by the end of this season. Whether he might get fired, or it might be he decides to step back for his own well-being. I would like to think that could happen in his awareness, but I think Callan at the Titans is probably the most likely. I would agree with that list if I was going to put a bet on, because there is actually Elite Manor across there, the rookie, insane, absolutely insane. Isn't getting recognised as much as maybe he should be, because everything else has gone to shit. Apart from, you've got elite talent in Cam Ward and in Manor, and that's it. That's all we can say about the Titans. Let's be honest. Calvin Ridley's done nothing this season. Really, nothing to write home about. I don't see a way that the Titans come out of this, I could see them going, dare I say it, without a win this season at this rate. And that's really sad, obviously, for them and for their fans. I feel like they have suffered a lot recently in recent seasons. Yeah. Give me the Titans to change up their head coach.
Let's look at the Titans running right now. So
Cardinals, Vegas, and then you've got basically an early bye week against the Patriots. Then you've got the Colts and then the Chargers before their actual bye week that isn't the Patriots.
They got to play the Texans again, which you know what the Titans will do in that game. They'll put on their bloody Oilers jerseys because they're petty fuckers. Anyway, then they got Seattle, Jacksonville, Cleveland, 49ers, Chiefs. I think they could go over 17, Meg.
Yeah.
I generally think the only thing Tennessee have got right now is Cam Ward. That's all they got.
Io Manor as well. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think Iamano is the sort of he needs to be put in a system that suits him.
Yeah.
Why he needs targets, but I don't think he's a wide receiver one. I think he's a wide receiver two at best, but he still needs to be in a team where it's someone's throwing him the ball. And
yeah.
My only concern with the Tennessee Titans sacking Callahan is they were the number one pick. And yes, there is the potential that they're going to regress in terms of the scoreline, in terms of could be 0-17. I don't think that they've built enough to warrant sacking him. I like who. My only concern is it's his second year in, and he's not exactly been given. He's been given a new quarterback now. Obviously, that's a big star, but what else has he got? He's got an aging wide receiver in what is it? Ridley still? Is he still there?
Calvin Ridley.
Who hasn't exactly little the world since he came back from his time off. The O-line is battered, so he's not even giving him a chance. Yes, you could argue that they probably should have sorted that O-line going into this season, but at the same time is that they don't I don't think that this isn't necessarily a problem I don't think it's a Callahan problem. And that's my only thing that maybe would save him. I don't think they'll get rid of Zach Taylor purely because he's got the Burrow injury card in his back pocket to say, well, it's not my fault, he's injured. Yes, I know he's pulling that out every single year, but he'll pull it out again and he'll probably save his skin. I said at the start of the season, after that first week, I said Mike McDaniel could get fired. And I still think he could because he's lost now a weapon in Tyreek Hill. They still don't look great, although they did get a win in the Monday game. I just think that he is the Dolphins have come to an end in the way I see it. Is they're at an end now with McDaniels. I think that's it. I don't think there's any real recovery from the position they're in. He had a chance to do it and he hasn't done it. And I think I could see them potentially moving on, tanking a bit, and then relying on getting a high draft pick with a new head coach, potentially moving on someone like Tua to bring in someone else and taking it that way. So for me, Mike McDaniel, I think, is still the number one. I think it's the other one that I think could potentially be in a lot of danger, and this is based upon how the weeks go on, is DeMeco Ryans. And I know you didn't mention him, but that Houston team have looked awful. And I think had they have lost that game this week, I would have said he would have been the favourite to be sacked. But because they got the win, I think that's maybe saved him a bit. But I think the next few games, that game against the Ravens, if they don't win that, he could potentially be up there as being one to be got rid of because they couldn't meet the Ravens at a better time. So for me, I think he could be another one on the list. I think all the others, I think Aaron Glenn is a ridiculous one. I think he will be fine. Yeah. I still think Dable will probably go at the end of the year. I don't see him being there next year. Maybe the same for Zach Taylor potentially, but yeah, for me, maybe they might. I think Callahan's probably just a favourite because of how bad the Titans have been and the fact that they were the number one pick this year, probably going to be the number one pick next year.
One of the things as well, though, that gets me with Brian Callahan is that they got rid of Mike Vrabel, who was doing well at the Titans, just to bring in Callahan and gave all the bullshit that they did. Brian, the GM, I can't remember what his name was prior to having Bugonzi, not Bugonzi, is it Bugonzi? Thingy from the Chiefs.
Yeah, Bonzi.
Come in. Brian Callahan had his GM fired because, oh, I guess like I said in the offseason, like that GM he made the decision to get rid of Rabel for Brian Callahan to be his guy, and then all that happens. There's a lot of pressure on him, and I think as well though, you look at some of these guys, Zach Taylor, can he run off the whole I've not got Joe Burrow? And I think
He's been doing it for 3 years.
But one of the things though that I'm looking at and thinking is, okay, look, at the end of the day, the head coach is gonna probably be the fall guy. The head coach, you can run through saying, right, I'll sack my wide receivers coach because I feel like the receivers that are probably the most, we need to be seen to be doing something. The problem with the Bengals is not Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor has given them 2 AFC North titles. He's given them 2 AFC Championship games, and he's given them a Super Bowl appearance. Granted, not a Super Bowl win, but a Super Bowl appearance. Every problem the Bengals have is front office related. It's the horrible way in which they've done contracts. It's the way they've decimated and let so much talent walk out the door on defense and refuse to be able to replace it at an appropriate level. Even if you let a lot of talent walk out the door and get a bit back or get a good chunk back, they haven't done that. The way that they went about the contracts for rookies in the off season, and the fact that they were the last ones left with the first round pick not signed. It's so much of that is front office, and I would hate to see someone who again has brought a Super Bowl appearance to Cincinnati be the fall guy for the sheer incompetence of the front office and the frankly pathetic way that they've tried to do business these past couple of years. Mike McDaniel, for me, it has to be. I don't that beating the Jets doesn't save your job. I'm sorry, it's not good enough. Not at the Jets with a brand new head coach, who's a rookie head coach. It doesn't shift the needle too much. Losing Tyreek Hill has to be one of the scariest moments in Mike McDaniel because that sheer talent that you have lost as well has lost you the chance of maybe getting a couple of extra wins because Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle together are the difference in potentially winning 2 games and winning 4 games. And Aaron Glenn, like you say, that's utterly ridiculous. That's hilarious. Is it just at his 4th game? I think they just want Summit to just
Because
kind of
they're
go
0
down.
4, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah,
They
it's
just
because
want
they're
Summit to
own
go down. And again, Kevin Stefanski, as long as he's got that defense, I think he's pretty much safe. He's 2-time coach of the year, isn't he, as well? So we know what he
And
can
also,
do.
you know, his QB situation is abysmal.
Yeah.
He can't really do much with it. So he's working with, shite. So
I'd love to know if at all the change to Dillion Gabriel has actually shifted the needle on any of these, but because maybe he had to make that decision though, because they were going a bit, listen, you either need to ride, if you're going to ride with Joe Flacco, you need to go down on, you're going down with the boat if it sinks, my friend. So
Yeah, you'll die on that hill.
yeah, you can
it
die on
almost
that hill if you want, and he rolled down
it
that
gives
hill.
him a free hit. It sort of gives him a free hit having a rookie as your quarterback in a way, because he's got to learn. You can't expect him to do anything with. You can't expect him to light up the league as a rookie. Very rarely do rookies do. So yeah, I think he has a bit of free pass in a way with that.
Yeah. Before we go, one last little bit. Now I need to ask you all a question. I need to ask you 2 questions. On Sunday, will either of you? I know we've had Karl's double bomber. Let's say it again. Where we know Karl will have a little flutter on the weekend. Will either of you will everyone else be having a flutter on the weekend? A couple of quid here or there. That's nice. Will any of you be doing any fantasy football related things this weekend? Just to
Don't think
no,
so.
no.
I've got to beat my opponent so I can send him to 0-5 and he gives me Josh Jacobs.
To be fair, Sam really doesn't like fantasy football. Anyway, we'll
Can't
see you
stand
tomorrow,
them.
Sam, for the fantasy football podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
If you do like those things, if you are listening, you also like to do those things, there's a way that you can do both of those things at the same time. And that is by our friends over at Fantasy Gameday should have definitely done this earlier in the episode, but we move. Our friends over at Fantasy Gameday, they are the first and only UK-based NFL daily fantasy app where you can set your lineup to a budget, compete against other UK fans, content creators, podcasts, and us as well, even though we come under all of those things, and potentially win yourself a few pounds in the process. With games ranging from £3 to £25, they have ballers games for the early kickoff, as has been mentioned already in the episode in London. They have 6 p.m. slate games, all day Sunday games, Monday and Sunday night football games, and a Thursday night football game, but that was yesterday, at least if you're listening. Bit late for that one there, sorry. And if you would like to have a go at doing this very thing, then you can do so by going to the link in our bio, downloading the Fantasy Game Day app, sign up to the app, use code HRDLE, that is HRDLE, hurdle without the U.
However, there is no hurdle the line without you. So you gave it a bit more oomph as well this time.
You did. I was impressed by that.
I was tired last time. I'm not as tired today.
There was oomph in that for sure.
So much oomph. And you will get free plays worth up to £7.50 just because you tell them that we sent you and they're really, really nice like that. If you want to have a little bit of success on this time, then I think we'll go and ask Sam.
Although I am the
Players are
only
you
one
looking
that
at this
hasn't
week?
actually won any money on it just yet, but I have only done it twice, so that might be why. I've gone kind of running back heavy this week in terms of some of the players to pick up, and that is mainly because that at the moment, I don't know if this is going to change in the upcoming days. There are a lot of very good running backs or potential high-scoring running backs for very cheap. Now, I'm going to start off with one that's maybe probably a little bit more pricey, and that's Cam Scatterbo. I think, after last week, obviously with Tracy being out, I think he's going to potentially be one to look at. They are up against the Saints, so yeah, he'll just bulldoze them. So I can see him doing particularly well. Some of the others that I think are worth looking at, Woody Marks for the Houston Texans against the Baltimore Ravens. At the moment, it's got the Ravens down as being the 31st worst team against running backs, which I think is bizarre, given the offense, given the talent they have. But either way, he's 3,600, which is an extremely cheap position, given the fact that he will probably be the receiving back in that team, as we saw last week. And finally, the other player to look at, and again, I think it's probably because they haven't updated it, is, as Karl's already mentioned, in terms of someone to what he's got on his bet, Demercado at the Arizona Cardinals against the Tennessee Titans. Again, they are down as the 30th worst team, and he's only at 2,200. Now, if you're wanting someone who you want in a flex position in order to be able to put in a few more bigger pieces like a Jahmyr Gibbs or the like, he may be worth to have one in your flex position because you could see him scoring relatively well.
Lovely.
So there are my picks, and they're all running backs this week. I think I've had a quick look at the tight ends, and actually, I think a lot of them are relatively well priced. So I think you probably pick anyone, to be honest, apart from maybe someone like a McBride because he'll be the most expensive.
Yeah. Okay, lovely stuff. I think that just about covers it for our week 5 preview. We will see you on Saturday for when our pick'ems gets released on the YouTube channel. See what we see who we've got for the weekend's games. That will be recorded in a minute, but out a day later. And leaves me without further ado to thank my wonderful, wonderful co-hosts, Spoilers Mech,
Thank you.
Karl, and Sam. Have a lovely weekend of college football, of NFL football. There is so much to watch. By this time next week as well, we'll be into the 54-day streak of football every day. We'll be living life, living it large, and by the looks of things, just really quickly, the Detroit Tigers will be in the divisional series of the
Woo.
ALS. But there's still an inning and a half to go at least, so we'll see about that one. Yeah, we'll see you next week. And don't forget to check out the Monday crew on Tuesday morning when that episode is released as well.